The Mughal Empire was founded in 1526 by Babur, a descendant of Timur and Genghis Khan. This time period was a turning point for Indian history and has had many after effects we still see today. From the minority Muslim population in India to the great Mughal-influenced architecture, there are a lot of facets of northern India that can be credited to this large empire. Babur was a ruler in Central Asia, and after many setbacks decided to set his sights on northern India. He turned out to be a great general, and overcame the Lodi dynasty in the Battle of Panipat. This event first established the Mughal dynasty, but sadly after his death, his incompetent son, Humayun, lost much of Babur's legacy. He had lost land and had retreated to Persia. However, when he came back, a great amount of Persian culture was introduced, including language, architecture, and art. Persian was spoken in the offices, but Hindi was spoken by the common people. A new language called Urdu was born and was a mix of Hindi, Arabic, and Persian. This was just one of the many examples of cultural mixing. By the end of Humayun's reign, he was able to win back some of his lost territories, which left a sufficient amount of land for his successor, Akbar. Akbar was different from other emperors in that he was very tolerant of other religions. He had married 2 Hindus, a Christian, and a Muslim. In his offices, non-Muslims were allowed to rise up in the ranks. This was a wise decision that helped prevent uprisings. Taxes were also reformed to be more fair, and were based on how much crop yield you produced instead of what religion you followed. This also caused more peasants to actually pay the taxes, which helped fund the empire. Akbar also made big investments in the military. He used cannons to break through city walls and appointed Rajputs as officers in order to make enemies into allies. This level of tolerance was able to ensure unification, and no uprisings due to unfair laws. Akbar's rule was said to be the golden age of India, because it allowed many cultures to come as one. However, although Akbar was tolerant, he was still a brutal emperor. He expanded the empire greatly, but in order to do that, he was very cruel. During the siege of Chittor, Akbar defeated the Rajputs' leader, Jaimal. The Rajputs knew Akbar had won, so that night thousands of Rajputi women jumped in fires, knowing that it would be better to be burned alive than be captured by Akbar. When he was able to get through to the Chittor fort, he killed 30,000 unarmed Hindus that resided there and weren't part of the army. This is just one of the many examples of Akbar's violent sieges. It is safe to say that tolerance did not excuse his brutality.
Additionally, the Mughals had left a firm print on the land and environment. Some of this could be attributed to the most famous monument symbolic to India, the Taj Mahal. Shah Jahan, the second successor to Akbar, wanted to build his wife a tomb as beautiful as she was, and thus the Taj Mahal went under construction and consequently heavily interacted with the environment. Complex water systems were built to maintain the sumptuous pools and fountains. There was even a ruby deficit in the region because so many of them were used to decorate the edifice. Other changes to the land were caused by introducing new crops to the soil and India becoming more trade-based than agricultural. The decline of the Mughal Empire is usually credited to the last effective emperor, Aurangzeb. In his reign, anyone who got in his way or posed a threat to the empire was tortured and executed. He was ruthless and, unlike Akbar, was not very tolerant. He reinstated the tax on Hindus that Akbar had initially removed, and even destroyed a few dozen Hindu temples. However, his motives were complicated. In that time, destroying a temple was seen as a rational thing to do if their associates were supporting rebels. But in modern times, it would enrage many people. Aurangzeb may not have been as tolerant as past emperors, but he still has been misunderstood by Hindu nationalists. He did not loathe Hindus to that much of an extent and even increased the amount of Hindus in Mughal nobility by 50%. Yet, during the end of his reign, he began to fight many useless wars. He extended the empire by 4 more provinces, but this stretched imperial resources too far, which caused the collapse of the empire shortly after. Even though the Mughal Empire was ruthless and caused much division between Indians, its history is necessary in order to fully understand social tensions between Muslims and Hindus today.
The Songhai Empire was a state located in Western Africa, with the capital city at Gao. Originating in the 11th century up until the early 15th to late 16th century, Songhai was one of the first largest Islamic empires in history. How is it so powerful? Well, you see, the base of power was on the bend of the Niger River. The Songhai are thought to have settled at Gao as early as 800 CE, but did not establish it as the capital until the 11th century, during the Dia dynasty, which soon gave way to the Sani. Once the capital has been established, Dia Khosrau, the king, converted the entire empire to Islam. Although the empire's religion has been established, only the upper classes in society converted to Islam. The lower classes can continue to follow traditional religions. The Songhai Empire was based off of all port cities dotted along the Niger River. Economic trade existed throughout the empire due to the standing army stationed at the provinces. It was a very strong trading kingdom, well known for its production of practical crafts as well as religious artifacts. The Songhai social structure was based on a clan system, similar to the caste system in India. The clan a person belonged to ultimately decided their occupation. The most common were metalworkers, fishermen, and carpenters. On the upper end of the spectrum, the top consisted of noblemen and direct descendants of the original Songhai people, followed by freemen and traders. At the bottom were war captives and European slaves obligated to labor, especially in farming.
A system of government was established under the royal court, which appointed governors and mayors to preside over local tributary states situated around the Niger Valley. Local chiefs were still granted authority over their respective domains as long as they did not undermine the Songhai policy. To ensure dominance, tax was imposed onto chieftains and provinces. In return, the provinces were given autonomy. Songhai rulers would only get involved if a tax was imposed onto peripheral chieftains and provinces to ensure the dominance of Songhai. Each town was represented by government officials holding positions and responsibilities similar to our government system. Under Askia Muhammad, the empire sought increased centralization. He encouraged learning in Timbuktu by rewarding its professors with larger pensions as an incentive. Timbuktu became the educational capital. He also established an order of precedence and protocol and was noted as a noble man who gave back generously to the poor. Under his policies, Muhammad brought much stability to Songhai. The Songhai Empire collapsed in the late 16th century due to Moroccan invasion. The Sultan of the Saudi dynasty of Morocco, wishing to control trans-Saharan trade routes, sent an expeditionary force which fought the Songhai army in Tundabai in 1591. Songhai forces, despite their superior numbers, were routed by the cattle stampede triggered by the Saudis' gunpowder weapons. The great city of Gao was sacked, and the Songhai Empire, as a regional power, was destroyed. The region then split into a dozen of smaller kingdoms.